Well, hello and welcome to Boomer Banter, where we have real talk about aging well. And I am your host, Wendy Green. And every week we have honest conversations about what it really means to grow older in today's world, navigating health, purpose, relationships, caregiving, and everything in between. And do you sometimes feel like your days are running together, your energy is low, you've lost your motivation, and you feel adrift since you retired? Well, you haven't lost your value. You've simply stepped into a space that is unfamiliar to you. So, I want to tell you that this is a natural experience, and it's a temporary part of adjusting to a new season of life. So let's talk about how coaching can help you navigate this time of your life. You can schedule a 30-minute per absolutely complimentary time with me to talk about what's going on, to figure out what you might want to do differently, and probably leave with one small, meaningful step that you can take with you after this initial conversation to feel more energized, more purposeful, and more like yourself again. So check on that link, calendly.com/boomer-banter/30 minutes, which I will put in the show notes, and schedule a time for us to have a short chat and see if coaching might be something that would be helpful to you. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Greenwood Capital. And Greenwood Capital is my financial planner. And I'll be honest with you, finances are not my strong suit. It can all feel overwhelming at times. But the team at Greenwood Capital really gets me. They explain things clearly, they take their time, and they make sure that my plan fits me. As an independent registered advisory firm, Greenwood Capital is a fiduciary. They must place your interests above their own. And I also want to share that as a sponsor, Greenwood Capital has compensated my business for this testimonial. And for more information about how they can help you make a financial plan, go to greenwoodcapital.com. All right, let's dig in. Have you noticed an increase in texts from people who don't know you? I got one the other day that said, "Marina, are you still interested in that lakefront property we talked about?" My name is not Marina, and I never talk to anyone about lakefront property. Have you seen the emails that come from the post service or Amazon telling you your package can't be delivered for some reason? But you can fix it by just clicking on the enclosed link and giving them the necessary information. And how about Facebook requests to be friends with some guy who's stationed overseas? Or an email from what appears to be your bank or credit card company telling you there's a problem with your account? Oh my gosh, how scary is that? Well, it seems like we are daily bombarded by things like this that create anxiety and may cause us to act quickly without thinking. In fact, in 2024, seniors reported nearly $4.9 billion in losses, a 43% increase from the previous year. Well, today we're going to unpack scams like these, along with a scam called pig butchering with Steve Benton. Steve helps older adults avoid the dangers of financial uncertainty and exploitation as an Elder Financial Safety Center financial coach, counselor, and exploitation specialist at the Senior Source. The Elder Financial Safety Center is a collaboration of the Dallas County Probate Courts, District Attorney's Office, and the Senior Source addressing elder financial abuse. Steve specializes in complex cases, including fraud, scams, and elder financial abuse. And we're very happy to welcome Steve Benton to the Boomer Banter stage. Hi, Steve.
Well, good morning or afternoon for you, Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here. I definitely am a boomer and I know how to banter, so we're ready to go.
So let's go. Would you start by just giving us briefly your background in the fraud and scam space?
Well, yeah, I won't go back too far, but I've been in the investment business my entire career. I started out as an investigator for FINRA, the self-regulatory agency of the securities industry, and then grew up in the securities business and ran various brokerage firms uh, across the country. And so very much into compliance and knowing what's right and wrong. And so I had retired early and looking for volunteer opportunities. And one of those was at the senior source. And when we formed this collaboration with the district attorney's office back in 2014, all of a sudden I was working again. And it went from 2 days to 3 days to 4 days. And I said, I drew the line. I couldn't work 5 days a week because I'm one of the older boomers. So there you go.
Uh-huh. Well,
But mhm,
we all need to find a sense of purpose after retirement. So it sounds like you really have, and
right.
we're glad to have you here.
Mhm.
In one of our early conversations, you had said that the scam that are going out put the seniors in like a perfect storm
Mhm.
of vulnerability. Why is it that we are more vulnerable in our age group?
Okay, and I use a Gary Larson cartoon with the deer standing there with the target on their chest, and bummer of a birthmark, Hal. And basically, boomers have a birthmark on them, a target, because 70% of the personal assets in this country are owned by baby boomers and above. And the youngest baby boomer turned 60 last year, so 70% of the wealth in this country is baby 60 plus year olds. At the same time, they're beginning to experience cognitive difficulties, and the numbers are 1 in 10 at 65. And then by the time they're 85, it's 1 in 3. So they've got declining cognitive ability, the ability to discern, what's good, what's bad, and so forth. And so they're easy to fool. At the same time, the con artists are getting more and more sophisticated. And they're doing this full time and trying to surprise people and so forth. So all that is working as the perfect storm. And technology curve. I forgot to mention that. That's always we're struggling to keep up, and we're never going to get there completely. And so they're taking advantage of that deficiency also.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the technology curve because none of us grew up with these smartphones and these desktop computers and stuff. So it is, and they change it every day. They change,
Mm-hmm.
update. Well, we're updating.
Mm-hmm.
So you've said that scammers are smart and patient. Can
Mm-hmm.
you walk us through how they gain the trust of some of the targets that they go after?
Well, people always say, but he was so nice. Well, all con artists are nice, or you wouldn't talk to them. So they gain your confidence through many ways. I mean, when you're talking romance scams, those sure pop up on Facebook. The perfect example of that is the happy birthday thing. If you've got your birthday out there, 28 of your girlfriends call you up, not call you up, they post happy birthday. It's all over your Facebook. And there's a guy that's hacked into one of them, and he's seeing every one of those, and he approaches them with, "Oh, I see what you post. I really like that." And of course, he's got a fake website, a persona out there. It's called catfishing, and he's got a good picture, and he's got things that women like. And that texting back and forth through Facebook begins that relationship, and pretty soon he says, "Let's move over to the WhatsApp, which is more private." And this relationship develops over text. And so out of those 28 women, it only takes one, and he's got a hit and can develop a relationship. And it is love. We talk about, it's middle school love. Oh, it's only puppy love. Well, it's real to the puppy. And the demographic is basically women 60 to 75, divorced, widowed, never married, and they're looking for love one last time. There's a male element too, but those are typically older men that have been married all their life and been the caregiver for their wife, and now they're just kind of lonely. And so they're both susceptible to, romance scams. And it's amazing that it's a lot of times it's text only, back and forth, and they're truly in love. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, at least she or he is. So,
Yeah. I've certainly seen those,
mhm.
oh, I like what you're saying, let's be friends. And
Yeah, exactly.
don't click on it.
Mhm.
So you called that catfishing. And
Mhm.
we also have something you call pig butchering. I don't know
Okay.
where you guys come up with these names, but tell me about pig butchering.
Well, you're diving deep into the biggest scam today is called pig butchering. We didn't make that up. That's really what it's coming out of Asia, coming out of the uh, Burma. If you remember the Burma country that's now called Myanmar or whatever, it's a lawless country, and they are pushing all this out there, and it's just it's diabolical the way they build these relationships. They build them through LinkedIn. People looking for jobs or it's kind of romance scam on steroids sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. There can be a relationship built otherwise. They're building it in all these different ways, and they're showing themselves as being very successful, unlike regular romance scams where it's usually a military from Desert Storm or Afghanistan trying to get home, or the North Sea oil rig people, and they develop it very slowly. This one is they project themselves as having money. And so the conversation comes up, how'd you make your money? Cryptocurrency trading. Okay. And of course, they don't have a clue how that works. Well, I can show you. And so they start talking about it. Next thing you know, that he or she sends $10,000 and gets a nice 15-20% return. So sends more and more money, and they'll never get it back. And it's just phenomenal. We've had 3 cases in the last year, over $1 million lost. A lot of the men that have 401k plans, they're 70 plus and think they're in love with a 35-year-old, but a lot of it is greed also. It doesn't have to have a romance component. So the pig butchering, nobody likes that term, but it really catches people's attention because you're being fattened up for slaughter. And it is just it's the biggest losses today, and it's just kind of come up in the last couple of years.
What about AI? Is that making scammers more efficient, or what are you finding with AI?
Well, and on a number of fronts. First of all, it's just voice imitation. That was kind of the first level. Anytime like hearing your voice, if AI captures that, they can start writing a script and you're speaking their words. And so that's a danger in itself. Now they're doing facial recognition, and it's you talking, your picture, and so forth. So very effective. And now they're developing websites. Just overnight, they can develop a really nice website imitation of Bank of America or whatever that really works just like theirs. And so it's only going to get worse and worse. And we're going to talk about hopefully what you can do to protect yourself, because it's amazing what AI can do. One of the things I tell people is, remember the kidnapping about a year ago, that the granddaughter of somebody was kidnapped, and it was their boys and so forth, and they're scrambling around trying to get money and so forth. Well, every family needs to have a password now, and it starts with the children, up to the parents, up to the grandparents, even the great grandparents. They need to have a family password. Maybe it's popcorn, maybe it's peacock, something that's very memorable to every member of the family, so that if any conversation comes up and you don't feel this is right, all you can say is, what's the family password? Am I really talking to my grandson? Am I really talking to my granddaughter that's needing bail out of Puerto Rico or whatever? You say, give me the family password. Of course, they don't have it. So it's a good tip right there.
And so when you do that, they would typically just hang up at that point?
Well, yeah, it's over. You don't have to listen anymore. But, and we'll talk about everything's to be distrusted now, with AI and so forth. I always talk about the Ronald Reagan trust but verify during the Cold War days. Now it's distrust everything. I mean, you can't believe text. You can't believe phone calls. You got to quit answering the phone. Do not click on anything. And it's kind of depressing, but that's the only way you're going to protect yourself.
It is depressing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these, if it sounds too good to be true, kind of scams, and what people can do besides just not trusting. I mean, how can they even recognize that there's a scam happening to them?
Mhm. Well, basically, you're living life, everything's going well, and all of a sudden something comes in, a problem into your life that you didn't even know you had, and suddenly it appears on a phone call, on a phone message. We pretty much stopped people from answering the phone anymore. Everything should roll to voicemail, everything should go to your answering machine, because 90% of scammers will hang up because they want to talk to a live person that they can fool. And that's why you don't take calls, because you're now in a database of all these scammers of somebody. It's a real live number with a real live person. And so that's why you don't ever want to answer. So 90% of them will hang up. But the ones that you do get on your voicemail or answering machine, if they scare you, don't ever call that number back. They'll be from your bank saying your bank account's been frozen or your Amazon account's been frozen. But go directly to your provider. Okay, call your bank. There's an 800 number on the back of your bank card, and say, do I have a problem with my account? And of course, you don't have a problem with your account. You really need to just stop when you're scared. So that's part of the problem, is they scare you. And I can tell you all sorts of stories of people being awakened in the middle of the night. It's a U.S. Treasury Department. You know, they work around the clock just to protect you, and saying your social security number's been stolen and all that. All of it's a scam. And so if you would just ignore it and not, they present this urgency that you got to take care of this today to protect yourself. And so if you would just ignore it, pause, okay, reflect on what's going on, and then get somebody else involved. I can't tell you how many of the victims try to solve the problem themselves. Okay, so you call your kids, who are now smarter than all of us, and you say, here's what I got. And they say, no, Dad, that's a scam, and so forth. But you've got to get somebody else involved. They ask you to pay in weird ways that you're not used to, gift cards,
Right.
always a scam,
Yeah.
always a scam. That's the nature of gift cards today. And so any payment is a scam, but they have you going to, people just don't realize there's ATM machines now where you can get Bitcoin, around your convenience stores in your major cities. And it's always a scammer that's teaching this older person how to give them money. They're feeding $100 bills in there to get the paying a debt in Bitcoin and so forth. So that's a lot of detail that I do in an hour presentation normally. But that's what's going on, is they just bring a problem into your life that you've got to take care of, and they're there to help you. And as you say, there's no free lunch. NFL, nobody is really wanting to help you. Okay.
Yeah, and they do play on your fear. I know the couple of times ago when I was getting ready to travel, we got up at like 3 a.m. and suddenly there's this text on my phone that says, Capital One said you had this big, charge on your account. Was that a legitimate charge? At 3 a.m, you're like, what? Oh my God, I'm getting ready to go away. And so you get into that anxiety state, and it does take a lot of extra effort to say, oh, wait a minute, let me check directly with Capital One instead of clicking on the link that was in the text.
Yeah, never click. And the old when you're on fire, the saying stop, drop, and roll. We all learned that, growing up. You don't run. Now I think ARP came up with the pause, reflect, think about it, and then protect yourself. And so there's no urgency, but that's a command to don't respond immediately, and then get some help. Don't go it alone.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Now, you mentioned in one of our earlier conversations also that 60% of your cases involve family members.
Yeah, there's
Why?
a division. When you talk about scams and frauds, you're really talking about things that are coming from overseas. You fall for those, the money's gone, you'll never see it again. Okay. You'll never meet those people in person ever, whether it's a romance scam or anything else. But the other half is really financial exploitation by family members, by caregivers, by quote, trusted friends. And that's the cases, that's probably 60% of my cases, and power of attorneys, mothers in memory care, and daughters out spending the money under a power of attorney. So those are the cases that we can prosecute. And but the scams and frauds, people just got to realize, once you're giving away money, it's never to be seen again. The FBI is not standing ready to assign an FBI agent to your case, though people think they should be. They're certainly not. There's really, you can report it. The FBI, the FTC, they all want your reports because they're gathering data. That's where you got your data of how it's increased year over year this past year. That's all they're doing, is so they can go to Congress and get more money and to fight it. But you're not going to get any in. And even on a local basis, the detectives are just overwhelmed with their caseloads, and there's just not enough detectives. but you're not getting a lot of personal handling of any scams and frauds because they know it's hopeless. When you've been scammed by an out of country scammer. And basically, we spend a lot of our time as financial counselors putting people's lives back together after they've been scammed. And okay, now what? You've lost that amount of money. What do you got left? And what can we do to help you? So that's the family exploitation. We can get involved. Okay, and a lot of times we can do it with phone calls, and it's a misdemeanor and a felony to spend mom's money when you're a power of attorney. You're a fiduciary, and you want to go to jail, and then they'll stop. And a lot of the grandmothers and so forth, if they're called to testify, the defense attorney will say, "Do you really want Johnny to go to prison?" "No, I just want him to quit stealing my money." And the prosecutors just roll their eyes because they're in the business of prosecuting people. And so they
Right.
make lousy witnesses.
Yeah.
But at least we can stop it and, protect the senior that way.
I think there's some shame involved when people get scammed. They suddenly lose hundreds of thousands or
Mhm.
their whole nest egg, um, and they don't wanna tell anybody. How do
Mhm.
you address that, Steve?
It is the most underreported crime today because people are embarrassed about the money that they've lost, especially like romance scams and so forth. And so it is a problem. And uh, you've just got to get other people involved with them, family members and so forth. And that's the only way you can protect yourself with others. Don't go it alone. You've heard of the boomerang kids that come back to live in your basement. We went through that period, or are going through it right now. Well, now we're in an era of boomerang parents because they've been scammed. They're left with just their Social Security. They can't even make their house payment. And by the way, boomers are the first generation ever to reach retirement still have a mortgage to pay. That's
Mm,
never happened before.
mm,
So baby boomers, and I is one, as they say. We were persistent spenders our whole lives. We know how to spend money. We like things. And now we've reached retirement. And as you said earlier, a lot of people are not prepared for retirement. And so that's why they fall for some of these scams where they can make more money because they're
mhm.
coming up short, things like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Here's a good question. What about when you get a letter from a company and they say your data's been breached? What do you
I
need
get
to
that
do to
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I get that question all the time is my Social Security safe out there? Well, you can almost guarantee that it's not. There's been so many data breaches that it's all out there in the dark web. You just got to count on it being there. What you can do to protect yourself, if you're a senior now, you're not going to get another mortgage, you're not going to get a new car and borrow a bunch of money, then freeze your credit. That's the way to protect yourself with all three of the rating agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and so forth. So that's a safe way to protect yourself from somebody stealing your Social Security number. You've got double protection when you log into your financial accounts now, where it's coming to your phone only. So you can pretty much protect yourself that way. So even if they have your Social Security number, they really can't do anything with it with your bank and your financials because that's not necessarily an identification that's used to the fullest extent. They'll ask you all the secret questions about who was your first grade boyfriend and all that you put in there. So, but you brought that up, and I just grabbed this out of my folder. I got this letter this week, and this was from TransUnion.
Mm,
Okay, one of the three big agencies, and they had a data incident, and it's also low key. We had a data incident, third party application, lost all their data, and then they get down to me, and they say what information was involved, and it was linked to specific data elements. In your case, all they got was your Social Security number and date of birth.
mm.
Oh,
That's
well,
all
that's
they
nothing to
need.
worry. That's all they got. And so, so to answer your question, that was a long way to answer it. Is you got to just understand that you're probably vulnerable and just protect yourself and don't believe anybody and get help the minute something pops up because it's probably being used out there.
And it's two-factor authentication. I
Right.
mean, it's super annoying,
Mhm.
but can you explain to listeners who see the request all the time, do you want two-factor authentication? And they go,
Always.
no. How does that work?
It makes you feel good. And it's basically on your financial accounts, at the credit union, at the bank. That's where you got your money. You got it at your brokerage firm, your financial advisor. Those are the main ones you need to protect. and I just love it because I know that nobody has my phone in my hand, and I can get a authentication right on the spot. So once you get used to using it, you just feel safe every time you do it.
There are
So,
different ways though. Like I have some that I had to download an app onto my phone that the number changes every minute or so, every 60 seconds, and that's the number you have to enter in. There are others that seem to just click here and now you've been authenticated. And
right. And it's called an authentication code, and that is actually the safest. I mean, we had this way back, 15 years ago with the brokerage firm that I ran on the West Coast, and you had a little tag that you kept with you when you traveled, and that number changed like every 30 seconds. And so when you were ready, when you had to authenticate, you had to put that number in quickly because the number would pop up again.
right.
And so it is a little bit of a hassle to go on your phone and have to go through an authentication deal. But once you get used to doing it, it is the safest way to go. So I would just, if you have any concern at all about your financial well-being in your accounts, that's a very safe way to do it.
I guess the other way they do that is they'll text you a number, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, 6-digit number. That's really the true double authentication. But that new one you're talking about is it's an authentication app that is sending you a number that expires very quickly. And so either way.
So, you mentioned a couple of times, talk to somebody, tell your kids, all of that. Is there something that our kids can do to help us feel safer, to educate us with, in respectful ways?
Yes, I know what you're saying, and I always like the younger audiences that I get in front of. Like I was at the junior league 6 months or so ago, and I said, "How many of y'all have parents in their 70s and 80s?" And of course, a lot of hands. What do you know about their finances? And of course, everybody just kind of ducked their head because, well, they don't share anything with us. Well, those days are really over because mom and dad are getting scammed like crazy. And you've got to, I was out with my younger brother and his wife the other night, and he's got a 93-year-old and 89-year-old in-laws. And I said, what do you know about their finances? Oh, they won't tell us anything. Well, you've got to walk through that stiff arm. You need to have a family. When you have siblings, like yourself, you all of you outnumber them, outnumber mom, and sit around the table and say, Mom, we've got to protect you, and those days are over. So remember my stats, 1 in 10 at 65, and then 1 in 3 at 85. That 20-year period, you can see the deterioration of cognitive abilities, and you've got to act somewhere in the 70s of being part of everything, and and just making sure that you're seeing what's going on. And if you just have a good relationship where you train them to call you if they question anything, then you're pretty much safe to be involved in their finances, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. My mom will call me if anything weird happens. So I'm glad she doesn't click on links anymore.
Yeah,
But
the sad ones are the ones where the families have somebody's in Bangor, Maine, and mom's here and so forth, and they have no clue what's going on in their life until it's too late. And so what we have now is the Texas Financial Elderly Exploitation Act, and we passed that a couple legislatures ago, allowing banks, credit unions, investment advisors, and so forth, if something is out of character with an account and they're not responding well, like they know it's a scam, they now have the permission to freeze that account for 10 business days. Whereas before, these poor tellers were just, Mrs. Smith, you're being scammed. Oh no, I've got to do this. Give me my $10,000. And they couldn't stop her. Now they can just freeze her account for, it doesn't make them happy, but at least it protects them, and you can get some family around them. But I've had so many children in my office when mom and dad have lost their money, and it's the horses are out of the barn, and you're trying to put their life back together, and they're in shock that they got scammed. So you need to be involved with your parents. That's a very good question.
yeah, and I don't have a password with my grandkids who are both two of them in college now, and I think that's something I need to get on right away.
Right, because they're going to call you from Puerto Rico because they're in jail and they need bail by 3 o'clock, and you're going to run to the bank and get it wired, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of just saying, prove to me who you are,
Exactly.
and just, yeah. Hmm. It's so uncomfortable that you have to be so untrustworthy, but you say don't trust anybody, verify everything. Can you give us a couple of examples of how to do that in real life?
Well, first of all, you've got to trust no one that you don't have a face-to-face conversation with. Okay, somebody has called you, they've used some type of mechanism to get to you by texting or so forth. You've got to immediately suspect. You need to start at the negative. And I know that's bad, but you didn't ask for a relationship with this person. They invaded your life. Okay.
Mhm.
And so you're under no obligation to do anything at all, but you've just got to distrust people that you don't have a face-to-face relationship with. And so that's one of the keys. You'll get texts like, and you've probably gotten one of these. Is this Elizabeth?
That's right.
And yeah, now think about that text. No, it's not Elizabeth. You don't know Elizabeth. You don't have any information about Elizabeth. So you're going to be no help to this person whatsoever. Why would you even talk to them or text with them?
Well, I'll
Okay.
tell you why. Because we're nice and we want to
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm
But you don't have
sorry,
any,
you
you
have
don't
the
have
wrong."
anything to offer. You don't have
Um,
anything to offer.
but the first time I got that, my response was, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number. This Elizabeth must have given you the wrong number." And they go, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." And then they try and keep talking.
That's exactly right. And so I did that one night just to play along. And sure enough, it was about the third back and forth. Well, tell me a little about yourself. So, see, somebody's invaded my life now wanting to know about me. And what you've also done by responding, you're now you heard about the do not call list. You're on the call this person all the time because he talks, okay, or
Mhm.
he texts back. And so you're just going to get more and more scams. They're going to multiply and breed like rats.
'Cause
Okay.
they share that
Oh yeah, they
information.
share it all, and so like I said, you have nothing to offer, and all they're looking for is to get a relationship starting with you. Okay.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges is that we grew up in a time when, you tried to be nice to people and everybody was your friend, and it's not that way. It's not that
No,
way.
it's not, and that's
Yeah.
why of course, a generation is slowly passing away that thought the phone was really cool and you answered every phone call.
That's
And
right.
now you call your kids, they never answer. They
Right.
never answer your email, but you text them, and gosh, they have it back. And
They
so
answer
here's
then.
here's the stats. Why are you getting so many texts? Because 97% of all texts are looked at within 20 seconds. Okay, so they're
Really?
getting an immediate response from you, and if they can scare you, they say, "Oh, I've got a problem. I've got to get on this immediately."
Yeah.
Okay, whereas you might listen to your voicemail once a day, but so that's why they're using that to steal your data and everything else.
You're so right. You're so right. Now you mentioned that do not call list. Does that even exist anymore?
It does, and it's totally worthless. Let me tell you, it was put out by the FTC, and I had this back when I was running a brokerage firm out in California. We were meticulous in if they were on the do not call list. You cannot call any number in our firm that was on the do not call list. Now, do the con artists believe that? I mean, do they follow that? Because there's no prosecution.
Mm.
You have a data requirement there where they don't prosecute anybody. So why would a con man just keep calling your same number? So all they're doing is you're filing with the FTC, and it doesn't work anything. It doesn't block anything. So it is worthless.
So let me ask you this. As a community of older adults, boomers, out here
And
in
older.
Boomer Banter land and
Hmm.
older, right?
Hmm.
What can we do to help each other stay safe from all of these scammers?
Well, isolation is the number one risk and vulnerability of seniors today. There's more people living alone today than ever before. The population has doubled since 1960, but the people that live alone is up 442%. That's just boring stats. But people are living in houses that are falling down around them. They're trying to age in place. Okay, and so they're having to pay their utilities, pay the yard man, pay repairs, and they're always doing something. At some point in time, it's just safer to be in an independent living where you can socialize, and it's fun going to the independent living facility and doing my talks because they're in there playing bridge, they're socializing, they're sitting at meals together. So you got eyeballs on one another. So isolation is the number one risk.
Mm.
And then shortly there, close behind that is actually the computer. Okay. You are actually opening portals into your home, into your apartment with people and engaging with people that you will never meet and that you probably wouldn't let in the front door if you saw them. Okay.
Mhm.
So, we have a saying around here at the senior source: if you thought taking dad's car keys away was tough, wait till you try to take away his computer, because
Mm.
that is his, interaction with the world. And
Mhm.
so those are the two big problems that are out there: living alone and using the computer.
And I would say to everybody listening, this is on YouTube, so you can, most seniors are more comfortable with YouTube than with podcasts. So you can share this with them and your parents and your friends and give them some of these tips that Steve's been leaving with us. So it's super important to share this message. Okay, Steve, final question. The full name of the show is Boomer Banter, real talk about aging well. So what does aging well mean to you?
Well, when you think about financial security, that's really financial wellness is financial security. And financial security is the gateway issue of really public safety. Your financial security determines where you can live, what you can do, where you can go, what you can eat. And so you've got to protect what you've got. And, it's hard enough with the financial planning we teach and so forth. Do you have enough? I always get that question. When you've gone through all my financials, do I have enough money? And I said, oh, that's such an easy equation. We've talked about your income. We know your Social Security. We know the dollars coming in. We know the assets that you have that are eventually going to have to be liquidated to offset any budget decreases. There's only one part of the equation we don't have. And they always go, what is that? And I go, date of death, because nobody knows how much money you're going to need. And so, old country saying is get all you can all you get, and sit on the lid. And so that's financial security. You got to protect what you've got, even if you don't think you have enough. You cannot afford to be scammed, and so that's why it's so important. It's a public safety issue, very frankly. So
Yeah.
that's financial wellness to me.
And aging well. Yeah, protecting what you have and avoiding these scams, so important. You can reach Steve, you can email him directly at sbenton, BENTON, at theseniorsource.org. And we will share that in the show notes. And there's also a phone number at the Elder Financial Safety Center, and that's 214-525-6174.
Well,
Now
that's
that,
my personal number, so there isn't actually another, but that's fine. I can
sorry,
share
I
this
thought that
all.
was okay.
That's all right.
But the Elder Financial Safety Center is in Texas, so they
Yeah.
can it can give you advice, but they can't prosecute anything that might come up unless you are also in Texas. Is that correct?
Right. We're in the Dallas area and North. We serve clients all over the North Texas area, but I'll get calls, from cities here in Texas because they don't have a senior source, and we'll take the calls. And of course, we can't pursue with an investigation or what's going on, but we can give them some advice, on what
Okay.
to do. And so I've talked to people from Philadelphia and things like that, and they're fairly short calls, but hopefully informative. So,
Yeah. And maybe just a pointer to where they could pursue help.
right. Hmm.
So I just want to say that, first of all, Steve, this is great. Thank you for your time on this. And I want to say to everybody listening that getting older doesn't mean we will inevitably fall victim to a scam, but it does mean we have to get wiser. What Steve reminded us today is that wisdom looks like slowing down, asking one more question, and verifying before we act.
And
If
getting
something
help.
and getting
Getting help.
help. And if something feels urgent, secret, or too good to be true, that's your first cue to pause.
Mhm.
And if you have been targeted or if you've even fallen for a scam, please know this: shame belongs to the scammer, not to you. So, as Steve said, tell someone you trust, call your bank, report it. The sooner you speak up, the more power you take back, and the more help someone else, the more you would help someone else to avoid the same trap. So let's look out for each other. Share this episode, like I said earlier, with a friend. Check in on a neighbor and have that quick family conversation about safeguards and passwords. Oh, so if you want to reach Steve, all of those contacts will be in the show notes. Steve, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you've given us.
My pleasure.
I also want to remind people that if they are interested in talking about retirement and they're feeling stuck and they are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself, let's have a quick conversation, just 30 minutes, just to chat and see where you are, see if we can just do a minor tweak, or if you want to do, a 6-month, 3-month conversation to kind of help you get back on track. Go to calendly.com/boomer-banter/30, the number 30 minutes, and let's schedule a time to talk. And I also want to thank Greenwood Capital for sponsoring Boomer Banter. They are a registered advisory firm providing wealth management, investment solutions, and financial planning to clients in 23 states. All right. Well, that is all for today. Thank you so much. I hope this has been helpful and meaningful to you. Steve, I know every time I talk about something like this, I learn something. So thank you for that. I will be talking to my kids about a password. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Wendy.